All right, man, peace. So Donovan Mitchell, the standout rookie for the Utah Jazz, sat down with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman to discuss what he believes the Utah Jazz's chances will be in the playoffs, as well as whether or not he believes he deserves to be Rookie of the Year or Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Slam dunk, Donovan Mitchell. Are you serious? Mitchell at the other end answers with a three as he bangs it in off the back iron. Mitchell right lane, all the way to the basket, lays it in. He stops, he rises, he fires, he ties the game. Donovan Mitchell, are you real? Back to Donovan, he's going up to the top floor and ringing the bell with a right-hand hammer.
I did a video about this brother maybe about 2 or 3 months ago when I first saw that he was starting to rise to prominence and the way in which he was able to dominate most of the competition on an athletic and physical level in the NBA, which is very rare for a rookie. There are very few rookies in NBA history who came into the league able to dominate on a physical level, especially at the guard position. He reminds me a lot of a mixture between Damian Lillard and Dwayne Wade. And his physique type is very reminiscent of a brother that many of you cats out there who go back to the 90s may remember by the name of Robert Pack.
Young man, you have arrived in this league.
Ooh, nice little montage there. Our next guest was taken by the
There go Molly, already trying to shoot her shot.
Nuggets with the 13th overall pick in the NBA draft, but fortunately for Utah fans, traded to the Jazz on draft night. He's a leading candidate for Rookie of the Year and averaging over 20 points per game this season. We welcome Donovan Mitchell to the show. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for being here. All right, Donovan, currently in a tight race for a playoff spot in the West, but everyone's trying to avoid the two heavyweights, Rockets, Warriors in the first round. Which team would you rather face? Because you've already beaten the Dubs twice.
Before he answers, let me say this. I think that the Utah Jazz would have a serious problem against the Golden State Warriors if Steph Curry were to play in the first round. But as we already know, Steph has been ruled out for the first round. Will he make a surprise appearance? Should Golden State get in any trouble in the first round? I believe that he would. I think that the Utah Jazz have a great matchup against the Houston Rockets. I think that Houston is still unproven. As I've been saying all season, their referendum will come in the playoffs because there are still many questions to be answered pertaining to Mr. Mike D'Antoni, James Hardenhead, as well as Chris Paul, who have all flamed out in the playoffs at one point or another. I think that Utah has the physicality to give them a very hard time, especially over the course of a 7-game series where they can game plan for what Houston does. Golden State will be a little bit different because Golden State uses a lot of misdirection in their offensive schemes. The question with them would be, can you break them mentally without Steph Curry there and with Kevin Durant in a leadership position?
I think the biggest thing, they're both tough teams. One's more of a screening action kind of three-point threat, and then the other one's an isolation three-point threat. But for me personally, I'm close with Chris Paul, so I love to get in a playoff matchup with him and go head-to-head with him. That'd be pretty exciting for me.
In other words, I played against Chris Paul in the offseason, and I know what I can do against him. I know all his weaknesses.
Donovan, you're obviously an internally motivated guy the way you attack on offense, but I'm wondering how much of your draft position, as many 12 guys taken before you, have you used as motivation this season where you've been, Simmons was drafted last year, so you've been the best rookie in this draft class?
I don't really use that too much, to be honest. If you heard my story, I didn't know if I was going to get drafted in the first round until about 2 weeks before the draft.
His answer there to me is indicative as to why he has been able to ingratiate himself so well and so thoroughly with his teammates. Very quickly into the course of this regular season, many of the more prominent members of Utah were willing to divest their role on the team to him and allow him to take the lead as scorer, playmaker, etc. And this is a team with Ricky Rubio on it. And they were willing to give over the keys to the team to him, not only because of his tremendous natural ability and talent, but also clearly because of his personality. He seems to be someone who does not take himself too seriously and is not entitled. Now, there are some athletes who will look at where they were drafted and use it as a galvanizing force. There's nothing wrong with that. But as he stated, he didn't even think he was going to get drafted in the first round. So I think that his scope, his understanding of what he expected in regards to how other teams would esteem him, in combination with his great raw ability, has really paid dividends in regards to how he's been received. And you can see they have great team synergy.
You know, that's how unsure I was. But I think the biggest thing with me is I've just been focused on learning and getting better game by game. And with that mindset, I think it's helped me get to where I'm at today. But I don't really say, 12 guys went ahead of me, I'm going to try and go and kill every single one of them. I just focus on the task at hand. And fortunately, I've had success against the teams that I guess didn't pick me. But just having fun and just taking it game by game.
Well, you may not pay attention to that, D-Mitch, but I know you're paying attention to the Rookie of the Year. I don't care what you say, and you should, because as far as I'm concerned, you deserve it. Having said all of that,
I wouldn't say he necessarily deserves it. I think that Ben Simmons is a once-in-a-generation basketball player, as Dr. J stated. I think that this brother right here could be a standout member of a generation, but I think that Ben Simmons is someone that you look back at 15 years from now and you say, arguably, he was the best player of the last 15 years. He's that level of talent. If Ben Simmons gets a jump shot, he goes from being a top 25 player in the NBA to arguably top 5 tomorrow, if he gets a consistent mid-range jumper. This brother right here, he has the potential to possibly be another Dwayne Wade mixed with Damian Lillard, which is extremely potent. He's going to be another great guard who is going to push other guards in the Western Conference for an all-star selection. Ben Simmons is going to be somebody who is going to put Philadelphia in the talks for title runs in the Eastern Conference for years to come. I think that's where the difference lies. But if they were to split the Rookie of the Year award between the two of them, I think that would also be very just as well.
there's a superstar in the making as a rookie in Ben Simmons in Philadelphia right now. A lot of people thinking about him. They're thinking about you. Do you believe you deserve to be the Rookie of the Year, and why or why not feel that?
You know, Stephen A., to be honest, this wasn't, like, I'm a person that keeps things consistent. You know, this wasn't a thought in October, you know, so why, now that we're going into the playoffs, should it be a thought for me right now? Mm-hmm. And, you know.
That's a great answer, especially since you're leading the team into the playoffs. Once again, the brother shows that he utilizes discretion. He's very level-headed. That shows you why, once again, why the veterans on the team were willing to divest leadership over to him.
You know, I think that's the biggest thing. You know, Ben's obviously a talented player. You know, the amount of triple-doubles he's got in the season is incredible. But, you know, the biggest thing with me is I'm just trying to see if we can push to the top four in the West. You know, I think that would be a bigger accomplishment for myself because I'm a selfless guy. I look at this award and I say, you know what, if I win the finals, I'm not going to be worried about, you know, did I win Rookie of the Year 4 or 5 years ago? You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest thing. And, you know, you look at guys who've won the league, who've won championships, they weren't really worried about, you know, this particular award. You know, I want to be hopefully the best in the NBA, not just the best of one particular class.
Great answer. And Magic Johnson wasn't Rookie of the Year. So there were a lot of Rookies of the Year who went on to become great players. You know, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, etc. But you have a lot of great players in the NBA right now who were not Rookies of the Year. So once again, the brother shows great scope.
Donovan, I want to talk Louisville for a second, Patino, but first Lamar Jackson, because obviously you went there and he's taken a lot of heat because he has his mom representing him and people are saying he should play a different position. Tell us why he's the real deal.
Well, you know, the one thing I tell people is that we had my freshman year before he became Lamar Jackson. He was we had dunk contests. You know, we would throw the ball off the wall and kind of go back and forth. And he's really athletic, but you know, his improvement from freshman year to sophomore year is incredible. You know, freshman year he had some ill-advised throws. We just throw the ball, see if you can kind of find somebody. This year I feel like he's more poised and more locked in, and he knows the playbook much better too. You know, and I think that's one thing that he's definitely improved on. And he just has so many different skills that we haven't seen in a while. So I think that's why he's going to be one of the best in this draft.
You can tell by how Donovan Mitchell speaks that, number one, he's a great all-around athlete. He most likely could have played football if he wanted to in college as well. Beyond that, you can tell by how he plays basketball that he could have played football if he wanted to. He has a football physique. But you can also tell that he certainly had a strong father figure in his life just by how measured he is. That's why, once again, brothers, it's so important. I don't make videos talking about how you have to be there for your child. By the time you have to be there for your child, you've already had the child. My message for brothers is always, please pay very close attention to the female that you're with and try to be able to decipher if that's mother material for you. That's how you can create products like a Donovan Mitchell, Lord willing, with a good woman, and you raise your child up with her, and you can hopefully create a product like this brother right here, who's very measured and well within himself. He understands who he is as a person, or at least seems to.
Donovan, whose game growing up did you most pattern your game after?
It's easy to say LeBron. I think that'd be the first person, but obviously I didn't grow up to be 6'8", 260, so I liked Russell Westbrook as well. You know, just his passion and his drive every game. For 82 games, it was very impressive, even in the playoffs. So, but he's one guy that I've kind of said, you know, the pull-up jump shot is something I got to continue to work on. And I watch a lot of his film, you know, just to...
Well, brother, if you want to work on your pull-up jump shot, that's not the guy to watch. To be quite frank with you, you're a rookie and you already make better decisions on the basketball court than Russell Westbrook does. Now, if you want to watch Russell Westbrook for motor and drive and enthusiasm every game, then yeah. But in regards to the minutia of the game, the ins and outs of understanding the NBA game, Russell Westbrook is not the guy to watch. But I see his game more resembling a mix of D. Wade and Damian Lillard. Hopefully he could take that to the next level by being a bit of a better decision maker than Damian Lillard is. I think Damian sometimes gets a little too shot hungry. And he certainly is a greater athlete than Damian Lillard is, who himself, quiet as kept, is a great athlete. And we all know Dwayne Wade in his first 5 or 6 years in the NBA was a transcendent athlete.
It's the way he attacks the basket. And, you know, since I've gotten in the league, Damian Lillard and Dwayne Wade have been the two guys I've watched the most.
Absolutely, I can see it.
Most.
Real quick, because I know Molly's got a follow-up question about Patino, but I got to ask you this. Being in the Western Conference, do you think that, are you one of those guys that look at the Western Conference and feel like it's just a tougher conference to be in, and whatever you accomplish in the West it should be counted more significantly than what you do in the Eastern Conference, because there's so many times we debate the disparity between the two conferences?
Well, Stephen A. Smith, in your words, what do you want, a cookie? Is he supposed to sit down at night and say, oh, it's so hard for me out here, out west? Like he's playing basketball. You play whoever you play on a nightly basis. It's not that difficult to figure out. Yes, the West is a little bit more tightly packed than the East is. But to be quite frank with you, I don't think that the disparity is as great as people make it out to be. The Indiana Pacers have fared rather well against Western Conference opponents. The Toronto Raptors have fared fairly well against Western Conference opponents. The Boston Celtics, especially prior to Kyrie's injury, fared fairly well against Western Conference opponents. I think that the best young team in the NBA right now is in the Eastern Conference, that being the Philadelphia 76ers. I think that a lot of this talk about how much tougher the Western Conference is than the East is much ado about nothing. Oh, the OKC Thunder, the Denver Nuggets, even the San Antonio Spurs, the Minnesota Timberwolves, these are not great teams. These are not preeminent teams. The Utah Jazz, these are all teams in a state of flux right now. Either young teams on the come up like Utah and Denver, or older teams that are on their way down like OKC and the San Antonio Spurs. And I call OKC old because as long as you have Carmelo Anthony on your team is old. Russell Westbrook is in his prime right now, his athletic prime. He's not going to get any better as a player. Now, he may get a little smarter as a player in about 3-4 years when he loses a step. But in regards to his athleticism, his explosiveness, his scoring ability, he'll never be better than he is right now. So, no, I don't think that the West is that much greater than what we see out East.
In my opinion, I think the Western Conference is really tough. You know, it is a tougher conference in my opinion. You know, you look at the race that we have now, I think there are 2 games separating the 4th and the 10th seed, and, you know, it just shows, you know, every team is competing for that spot. You know, we have so many guys who didn't make the All-Star team in the West that, you know, would have been All-Stars maybe in the East. You know, not to say the East isn't a good conference. There's a lot of talented guys, but, you know, the Western Conference is crazy. And every night, you know, there are weeks where I guard, a week straight where I guarded Westbrook, Dame Lillard, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson.
I will agree that at the guard position, the Western Conference is preeminent. There's no doubt about that. I mean, in the Eastern Conference, Kyle Lowry made the All-Star team. So there's no way Kyle Lowry's making the All-Star team in the Western Conference. He might not even be a top 10 point guard in the Western Conference or a top 10 guard.
And Jimmy Butler all in the same week, you know, and that's tough.
Well, that's tough for you because you have that physique. So they're going to transition you over to shooting guards because of the way that you're built, bro. So, unfortunately for you, your gift is your curse.
I'll go out west, no joke there. But I want to get back to Pitino. Obviously, you played under him. They were stripped of that 2014 national title. What was your reaction to that news?
His reaction should have been, well, at least they didn't catch me with the hose.
It hurt. You know, a lot of the guys on that team came back and practiced with us and, you know, kind of mentored us, you know, when I was there. And to see that championship go, you know, I think it was very tough. But from a national standpoint, I think as a community in Louisville, you know, they definitely won't forget what happened in Georgia. You know, that's their pride and joy. They definitely won't forget it. They still have the rings. You guys saw Kevin Ware, you know, he posted that, you know, he still has his ring. I think the biggest thing is that, you know, with Coach Mack now coming in, you know, we're excited and we're excited for moving forward. But, you know, it was definitely a tough situation, and hopefully this year we'll bounce back and be back to the program that we were.
Donovan, we were talking the other day about teams getting to South Beach too early, young men in South Beach, and then it seems like they have no legs the next day when they play. And I brought up Utah as the opposite example, right? Like, guys in Utah, what are you going to do? It's actually a good place for a young player to develop.
Yep.
Tell me what's good and what's bad about playing in Utah.
I would say the first thing, you know, being from New York, it's a smaller city compared to New York, obviously. And as a young guy in this league, I think it's helped me so much. It allows me, you know, not to kind of be out. I go to the games in Utah or BYU games, like, and I have fun, you know, and I love it. I love it here. It's a great place to play. But, you know, it allows me just to stay calm and stay relaxed, you know, because this season can be stressful. You know, and guys in this league have turned to different things. You know, I turn to Netflix. You know,
yeah.
that's my thing, you know.
And it's probably why he's finishing his season so strong as opposed to hitting the rookie wall, because he just goes home and watches Netflix and goes to sleep. If he was in Miami or Houston or Dallas or New York, oh, man, oof, good Lord. That man's rod would have to be in a sling. All these little young thotties out there checking for him.
Hey, Donovan, will you please tell Stephen A. Smith about Coach Mackey real quick?
Coach Mackey, he's a great coach. He was my guy back in AAU.
Yo, D. Mitch, I have no problem with Coach Mackey. I'm quite sure he's a marvelous coach. I just have never heard a human being in my life mentioned more by another human being as much as Max mentions him. That's all it is. Proud of you, bro.
Coach Mackey's a
Keep
good
it
guy.
up.
Oh,
Thank you.
There you go.
Netflix and chill never gets you in trouble. Donovan, appreciate.
There go Molly, shoot another shot. Talking about Netflix and chill. We all know what that means. I tell you, boy, when these so-called non-black women, when they have a fetish for the so-called black man, I mentioned this to a brother a while ago. Anytime you're talking about a non-black man or woman who have an infatuation with so-called black people sexually, it's not like they just meet one and they want to settle down with that one. They're like vampires. They want to hop from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. He didn't say nothing about no damn Netflix and chill. He said Netflix, but she had to take it to Netflix and chill. That was her way of hitting on the man. Let me rewind that back.
Appreciate.
Mackey's a good
Keep it
guy.
up.
Thank you.
There you go.
Netflix and chill never gets you in trouble. Donovan, appreciate you. Been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I bet you do appreciate him. I bet you do. You want to see if he if he could put the Jazz in Utah, you know, or the Jizz in Utah, in your case.
To watch.
Definitely, thank you.
All right. John Carp.
But anyway, that's it on this video. The brother, Donovan Mitchell, seems to have a very bright future ahead of him. He also seems to have a very good head on his shoulders. Hopefully he doesn't have any missteps, and if he does misstep, hopefully he'll be able to bounce back. In regards to him being Rookie of the Year, I would like to see them split the award. We all know that it's not quite done that way. They have to have the same amount of first place votes. Hopefully they can make that happen, because I think that both he and Ben Simmons are equally deserving, even though I think that Ben Simmons is the player for this generation. But we'll see. Anyway, peace.